Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show. I am your host, John Ryan of SportsMemo.com, and also joining me is my good friend and pal and professional sports bettor, Ronald Cabang, also of SportsMemo.com. We thank everyone for joining us today here at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time for the Friday edition. Welcome to the show, Ronald. I must say humbly that I went 3-0 last night, and even the Suns game, I wasn't really sweating it. I figured, well, 2-1's pretty good too, but then they came through and made for the sweep. Now 17-5 and 77% winners. So I can't remember a time, at least in the last couple of seasons, where I've been in the mid to upper 70s for this extended period of time. So very grateful for that. You're doing well
Yeah,
over
that's
in the
such a
playoffs
such a
too.
great yeah, that's such a great run, man. I mean, yeah, it doesn't happen too often, even for the pro cappers. I mean, that's it's well deserved.
Yeah, it
You put
feels
in
good. I
you put
appreciate you
in a lot
saying
of
that.
work. Yeah.
In one of the losses, we were 14-1, I guess, with the start of this run, and then we lost a 5 percenter by a point with the over Chicago Bulls game earlier this week.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I mean that when you go 3-0 after losing one by the hook or a point, it doesn't burn as much. It doesn't hurt.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's all about grinding it out. That's can't emphasize that enough. But
It is.
we
It's
do
always that long term. Just gotta look at it from the long term perspective. That's all you gotta do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So with that in mind, I think we're going to see a grinding type of game tonight. It might be high paced in terms of NBA styles, but Memphis Grizzlies in Game 6 here are looking to close out the upstart Minnesota Timberwolves. They are that rare NBA team with a losing record. Not only that, they're about 9 games under 500, but you can't base their performance on that season record because they are a team that's playing more like a team that's 10 games over 500 in the playoffs than one that's not. But
Mhm.
this game is really tough, Ronald. I mean, I would never encourage anybody to flip a coin, but the line is basically a coin flip. It's Memphis -1. The total is now 229. It opened at 228. And to start things off, I do lean towards the Grizzlies because they are the number two seed. Number two seeds in Game Sixes do very well against the spread and straight up. And even back in the day where it was a 2-3-2 format for these best of sevens, the results were good even when on the road, which is the
Mhm.
case right now as well. But I'll turn it over to you and to see if we can dig out a couple nuggets here that are worthy of a best bet.
Yeah, I too. I lean towards the Grizzlies here. I know this game specifically is a tough game to cap just because of the style of play that these guys play with. They match up really well, and we've been saying that throughout the whole series, and that's why a lot of these games have been so tight. But from a side perspective, Minnesota has covered every first quarter so far this season in the series. And they've also gone over the total in the first quarter every series in every game in the series. So that was one way that I was looking at this. I mean, like we mentioned, the side perspective from a full game look is really hard. So you got to really look for these little first quarter, second quarter, like niche types bets where you can kind of take advantage of the books. I mean, if you think about it, in 5 games, they've gone over the total. Minnesota has covered pretty easily, but the series is 3-2. So the Wolves have been giving up pretty large leads, especially like I forgot exactly what game it was, but I think it was either game 3 where they let go of 2 20-point leads in one game and end up losing outright. Um, to me here, I think the line is small enough to where you would probably want to bet to who you think is going to win the game, and to me, that's the Grizzlies. And historically, it's been profitable to fade teams in the playoffs who had a double-digit lead in the previous game and ended up losing and are dogs the next game. And that's the situation here today. That's telling us, to look towards the Grizzlies here. And like I mentioned, even though the series is 3-2, the Wolves have covered each first quarter in this series. And I think it speaks to the depth and defense of the Grizzlies, like we mentioned all series long. The longer these games go, the longer the series extends, the depth and defense of the teams show up. And you can kind of see that in all the games that closed out yesterday. Um, as far as the total, both teams pace wise are above their average from the regular season. They're attempting more free field goals. They're also attempting more free throws per game. That's 16 combined free throws attempted per game, more than in the regular season. But the games have been going under. Majority of the games have been going under. What I've noticed is the total hit under 230 for the first time in this series. The reason why I think that's a little significant is because both teams in the regular season have hit at a profitable percentage when the total is 230 or less. Grizzlies specifically 10-2 straight up, 9-3 against the spread, and 9-3 to the over as road faves when the total is 230 or less. So to me, those are pretty significant numbers here as far as like pace wise and all that. So those would be my leans here. Grizzlies against the spread, full game, and towards the over full game. But I think as far as placing an actual bet, I'm really looking at the first quarter numbers here. Maybe the first quarter over. I know, like I just said, like the first quarter overs have hit every single game, but not every game has gone over. So it's just one way to think
Yeah.
about it. It could be that situation where you always bring this up almost every show, John. That live in-game betting, pre-flop and then full game. If you see a spot where you can take advantage of the line or the total, it might be time to go with a live bet there.
Yeah, and that one, I don't have the notes in front of me. You just triggered my memory. Teams that score 40 or more points in the first quarter of NBA playoff games, the total ends up going under at a very significant rate. I believe it's 60, mid 60s to upper 60% over the last 20 seasons, last 10
Nice.
seasons. So that's a great point. So if you play the over in the first quarter and one of these teams scores 40, which is, I mean, that's better than a 50-50 proposition. I could see the Timberwolves getting 40 on the board, getting out to a really quick start. And then you bet the under in game at probably, whatever it is. It could be as high as 238 at that
Yeah.
point, but that would be an exceptional value for sure. I do have a few notes on this game with support of Memphis. And what we have is I'm just gonna the seven seeds. I have details on that. The seven seeds in the NBA playoffs are 48 and 146 straight up, 72 and 119 with three pushes against the number for just 38% winning bets. Betting against them has been profitable, and it certainly applies to this elimination game. So let's look at elimination game results. So when you're betting against the seven seed in an elimination situation, that has produced a big time 36 and 10 straight up record and a 31 and 15 against the spread record for 67% winning bets over the last 20 playoff seasons. And if that seven seed is a home dog, which, it doesn't matter if it's a 5-point dog or a 1-point dog, which Minnesota currently is, the favorite has gone 42 and 17 straight up, 38, 19 and 2 against the number for, again, 67% winning bets over the last 20 playoff seasons. And lastly, Memphis is 20 and 10 with one push in the second half of the season, facing a strong passing team like Minnesota that's averaging 23 or more assists per game. So I definitely lean in Memphis, and now probably just a little bit more than I was before I listened to you and read it off. But it's hard to, Minnesota is a very exciting team, very youthful, very athletic, very fun to watch. But to take them, you're going up against the 2 seed. And Memphis had the second best record in all of the association this year. And that's what prevents me from getting enamored with the idea of a monumental upset occurring in the series. Because the game 7, if necessary, is going to be on Sunday. So that's our take on that. And speaking of Sunday, that's our second game of the triple-double show. And the Boston Celtics are hosting the Milwaukee Bucks, who were in a three-way tie with the 76ers for the same identical record. But due to the tiebreakers, Boston has been fortunate to have this number 2 seed. They get to host the 7-game series, meaning they have 4 games at home to 3 on the road. And, the Milwaukee Bucks are this could be the series for the Eastern Conference Championship. In other words, the winner that comes out of this is maybe the representative in the finals from the Eastern Conference, but that's yet to be seen. I really respect Boston's defense, Ronald. They really brought the load, so to speak, and the referees have been struggling in the playoffs, and it's well documented. We don't have to go over that. I still don't think it's impacted any of my games in terms of winning or losing. Like one specific bad call does not make for a bad handicap or a good handicap for that matter. But there have been a lot of phantom type calls, and I don't like seeing that because the player is acting like he got hit by a truck, and it is reminiscent of soccer, where that is permitted and you know totally different sport, but still the acting job I kind of get annoyed with. But now this Boston defense, who was clearly the best defense in all of basketball in the second half of the season, if not the entire season, has to play Giannis. I don't
Hmm.
Middleton is probably going to be out for this game, but I don't know how they stop him because he has a motor that just never gets tired, and it's just relentless up and down the court. And I can't. I take players in my head. I can't imagine Tatum shutting him down. I can't imagine who or what combination of players they're going to use to try to maintain or contain, um, the Greek. What's your take on this game?
Yeah, I believe if I'm not mistaken, Middleton is actually out for the whole series. So even if they
Oh
advance,
wow.
yeah, that's what I last read. So that's one thing to think about, and that's one less threat that the Boston Celtics have to worry about. And defensively for Boston, you mentioned they're the number one defensive team in the league. And it's not just, I mean, yeah, you have individual defensive players like Smart and Robert Williams, but they really do it as a team. And if you look at how Giannis plays, and even in this first round series, you could tell. You, I think they mentioned that he had like 13 or 14 offensive fouls throughout this series, and that's going to be significant if you play against Boston here, who play really good defensive team defense. They do a lot of help defense, and they do take a lot of charges as well. So if Giannis gets in trouble, Middleton's not there to help back them out. Help them out when he's off the court. Who's going to be there to bring that to put up points? It's just going to be Drew, and Drew is going to have a tough time with Smart on him. Defensive Player of the Year. I think I always talked about defense and depth, and right now that is towards the Celtics in this series. So you can see, I think the line opened up as the Celtics -4, and the way that I see it is Boston had a tough series against the Nets there, right? Every game was close. They had a really competitive series, so they're battle tested heading into the series. Where the Bucks, they really just they really just dominated that matchup against the Bulls, and so and you look at the line at a -4 towards the Celtics. I think there's some strength there towards the Celtics to at least take this first game. That's what I see as far as just like how I think this first game is going to go the series. I don't know if I haven't done a whole breakdown of the full 7-game series, if it will go 7 games or not. But I do think, at least for this first game, I'd be leaning towards the Celtics right off the bat.
Yeah, playing at home and just a 4.5 point home favorite seems like that'd be something to cover. What do you think of the? I think this is a concern. I'm interested to see if you do as well. I was looking at the injury list, right? And Jalen Brown has a pretty bad contusion on the left hamstring and is
Hmm.
causing pretty severe tightness. He's listed as
Yeah.
probable for game one, but what happens if during the game that thing gets aggravated and then he hypothetically is out for game two or three? I got
Hmm.
to think he's probably the more important piece of the team than even Tatum having an injury and not being able to play. He seems to be the glue that when he gets going and the way he distributes the ball as well, they just seem to be unstoppable at that point. But do you see that as a concern in game one at all?
I mean, to me, what I read was that he is likely to play that game. Like if you think about
Right.
Booker had a hamstring injury as well, and he came into yesterday's game and was able to put up significant minutes, for the Suns there. I think I feel like he's going to be able to play through it. I think if you played sports, right, you have a hamstring injury. In the beginning, if you don't warm up properly, you can kind of feel the tightness there. But as the game goes on, you should feel a little bit better, right? You get warmed up and you're loose. So I don't know if it's going to be that significant of a problem, to be honest. And I feel like it's something that he could play through. He might feel it afterwards. He'll feel the tightness afterwards, but in the game, I don't think it's going to be that significant of a problem. Um, I think they know what's at stake here, playing against the Bucks, the previous the reigning champions. So even without Middleton, I don't think they're going to overlook this team here. They got their minds set on this championship here, and I think they have the depth and the talent to do it, especially the defense. I mean, like you mentioned, number one defensive team in the league, and that's going to go a long way in the series because, to me, I don't think the Bucks have the defense right now. I mean, they clamped down on the Bulls team who was already struggling offensively, so we can't really look at these numbers and say that, oh well, the Bucks have brought the defense in the playoffs. Not really. They played against a bad offensive team. So now you play against the Celtics. We'll see how it goes from there. I think PJ Tucker was a big loss for them in the offseason. It showed through the regular season. They gave up a lot of points. They weren't that dominant of a defensive team. And I think that's going to show here in this series.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you said. I truly do, and I think Boston is definitely we're together on that for the game one situation. But then it is a big question whether it goes seven or not. It seems like a matchup that should go 7
Mm-hmm.
with overtime being played in the seventh game even.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed to be that even to me. At
Yeah.
2.5, that means Milwaukee will be at least a 2.5 point favorite at 5-serve form back in Milwaukee for games 3 and 4. But I guess the good news for the Bucks, if they are only 4.5 point dogs with Middleton out, I wonder what I guess the line would be 3.5, 3 if Middleton was
Mm-hmm.
actually playing. So
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that line shift too, because in the first round you could see a lot of the road teams who were the higher seeds. They were actually favorites on the road. You're not gonna see that here in the second round, I don't think.
right, yeah.
So yeah, so that is interesting to know as well. So we'll see how that goes, and that's the reason why the second round is so much tougher because the lines get a lot tighter, and you're really at this point just thinking, all right, who's gonna win the game? And home court and travel is going to play a big role in it.
Yeah, and lastly, before we do our best bets, which I think is going to be a pretty quick segment because there's really only one game tonight, and we have a lot. We have two more, basically 2 days, 36 hours before the Boston game one begins. But I was happy for the 76ers last night. I was even more pleased of a 35-point win for Doc Rivers because he got blasted unnecessarily as a choker. Basically the Philadelphia New York media again. And how many times he's been up 3-1 in a series. And you know what? If you look at his history, one of those, he was the 8th seed and up 3-1. And then finally the Giant woke up and won 3 in a row to not be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't get the credit he's due for what he's done. One other series, they lost Chris Paul up 3-1. Didn't play the last 2 games, so I guess that means Doc Rivers is a loser because he couldn't maintain a 3-1 lead without a player like we saw last
Yeah.
night. 14
Yeah.
out of 14 from the field, and only Wilt Chamberlain has more made free throws without a miss in the entire history of the NBA. So you gotta be happy for him too. If it was a guy that you want to win and see him hoist a trophy, it would have to be him.
Yeah, yeah, for
Nobody
sure.
else. So let's do our best bets. Obviously, I think we're both going to be the same team, but I'm going to go with the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. And then I will
Mm-hmm.
also mention in this series, and it happened again last night. Actually, it didn't happen last night, but anyway, in this series, playing the first half with the dog, and you don't necessarily have to do that part of it, but if the dog is leading at halftime, you take the favorite in-game live bet for the rest of the game, and it hits at 79% based on the live in-game spread. Based on the closing spread, which would be a lot higher, obviously, if the dog is winning at halftime, your closing spread is not going to be anywhere close to that. The differential can be as many as 8-9 points depending on what the lead is. But I do think that's a strategy that applies here, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Timberwolves up, double digits in the first half. I can also see Memphis up double digits, and the halftime score is tied. It's going to be very, very volatile. Lastly, the total, it's at 229 now. The odds are really high that you're going to be able to get. If you like the over, you're probably going to be able to get in the low 220s. If you like the under, you're probably going to get in the high 230s. So there's nothing wrong with trying to play a middle if you don't have an opinion. And this, we're talking pizza money. We're not talking thousands of dollars, but pizza money bets, and that can make it very entertaining to watch and track. It's like trading a commodity in the marketplace. Anyway, I'll turn it over to you and see if you also say the Memphis Grizzlies for your show.
Yeah. Yeah, and for this specifically, I'm gonna be clear though. I haven't placed a bet yet, but as far as this game goes, I do lean towards the Grizzlies here. So that would be the show best bet here for both of us. I think whoever wins this game is gonna cover that line. So to me, it's the Grizzlies.
Yep, I love it. So before I sign off here on this Friday edition of the NBA Triple Double Show, I want to make sure that everybody has the promo code HOOP99. That's HOOP99. That gets you Ronald Cabang's and my NBA package for the rest of the NBA playoff season. That includes our 5%, 10%, and those alone go for $39. So you're, one of those plays is that much, and you get the whole rest of the NBA playoffs for just $99, and that will save you an awful lot of money from having to buy every pick individually. So, Ronald, have a great weekend. Thank you for your time as always. And folks, there's only two things to remember: bet with your head and not over it, and may hold the wins